Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This meeting takes place in the traditional and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. Number 3 is deletions to the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Approval of the agenda. 4.1, recommendation that council approve the agenda for the March 11th, 2025 meeting as presented. Is someone prepared to recommend that? Moved by Councilor Strong, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any questions, discussions on the agenda? All those raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Approval of the minutes, February 11th, 2025 meeting minutes. There's a recommendation in front of us that council approve the February 25th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented. Is there a mover? Moved by Councilor Greek, seconded by Councilor Babineau. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion carried unanimous. Now we're on to number 6.1. We do have a special recognition tonight. This is the real enjoyable parts of this job, to be honest. We have 2 special guests here with us tonight. Cris Comstock and his son Kirk Comstock are in the audience. Cris and Karen owned Socher Optical on Lincoln Street for almost 60 years, 57 years. It was an anchor retailer in the town of Lunenburg. Quite frankly, I know when I would drive by, I still kind of look in there to see what they have for a display of glasses, and I kind of miss it every day. It's not very often, especially in today's climate and today's world, that someone has a small business in a small town like this for that length of time. And they were true community supporters. Anytime you need anything, you went to Cris and Karen and they were there. And I just want to present these certificates on behalf of the town and the citizens. I just want to say, how we really greatly appreciate what you've done for the community over the past approximately 60 years. And we certainly all will miss your services. So thank you, Cris. And if you and Kirk would like to come up. Okay, so now 7 is public input and questions. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. Each person must state their name. Questions or comments are directed through the chair, and comments and questions are open to any municipal matter. We do have 1 person signed up tonight, and that's Chastity Vino.
That on? Oh, it's very different to be on this side. It's kind of nice for a change. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, staff, and members of the public. I come before you today not as your neighboring municipal colleague and Deputy Mayor for the municipality of the District of Lunenburg, but with another hat that I'm proud to have. I am president of the Lunenburg and District Swimming Pool, and I wanted to bring to your attention an event that is coming to Lunenburg this coming summer. I thought it would be beneficial to provide some background information for those who might not be familiar with the pool. Long before my time, a prominent Lunenburger from the Smith family left $3,000 in her will for the purposes of building a swimming pool. She was heavily involved in the Red Cross and Learn to Swim program, which at that time took place at Sawpit Wharf. Over the course of the early 70s, dedicated volunteers held meetings, fundraisers, dances, and raffles, and looked at sites on where the pool would be best suited. And a fun fact, Blockhouse Hill was the preferred site to build this swimming pool because it had the advantages of draining the pool at the end of the season into the back harbor. Yeah, it was later decided it would be better suited where it is today due to the proximities of the other athletic facilities. And I believe the high school at that time, if it was in place in the early 70s. The town council made the society at that time sign an agreement that they would guarantee to operate the pool at no cost to the taxpayers for 8 years. The town did not put any money into the pool in fear it would fail or cease to exist and would be left to operate a public swimming pool. I'm proud to say that the LDSB Board of Directors continues to operate the pool, and today we're coming up on our 48th consecutive year. The pool opened in June of 1977. I would be remiss if I didn't mention two particular individuals, Ben Smith and Edgar Gearhart, who along with their partners were the driving force and provided me with some of this information and background. Now, with all that being said, the pool is hosting the 2025 Summer Provincial Swimming Championship. This event is not offered much to smaller community pools, and it's considered an honor to be able to host. The event will take place August 15th to 17th and will bring thousands of swimmers and their families to the community. Being a local not-for-profit organization that strives to ensure that all kids are able to learn to swim and be part of our pool family, we are working through providing a budget to be able to host this. We are grateful to receive a grant every year to put towards our operations from the town of Lunenburg and the municipality of the District of Lunenburg. Last year, we were able to purchase new instructional equipment with the funds we received. This year, we are asking, in addition to that grant, for consideration of an in-kind donation and waiving the fees for the rental of the community center during the course of the provincials. It is important to have a weather backup location, not only for rains, but in the case of a heat wave, to ensure the safety and efficiency of the swim meet. I have calculated an approximate cost of $1,100 to $1,500 for the entirety of the event, but have not yet been provided an official receipt. While I am not asking for any decision at this time, I wanted to bring the matter before you and provide some historical information on the facility. I will follow up in writing to your municipal clerk with an official request, but happy to entertain any questions that you might have at this time. And thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any questions for the Deputy Mayor? Thank you very much. I remember getting thrown in that pool when I was 8. That's how I learned how to swim. That's how they used to teach you back then. Right?
And while I'd love to stay for the rest of your meeting, I spent 8 hours in mine today, and I think I'm going to go home at this
Well,
point. So
feel free. Thank you. So 8 is correspondence. Under correspondence, there's a few items there. Really, there's one thing we have to deal with tonight. It's 8.3 Region 6 Intermunicipal Committee Budget. There is a recommendation in front of us that council approve the town of Lunenburg's required municipal contribution of $3,371 to the 25-26 Region 6 Solid Waste Management Budget as outlined in the Region 6 Intermunicipal Committee Budget. Is someone prepared to move that recommendation? Moved by Councilor Fullerton. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Greek. Any discussion on the recommendation? Deputy Mayor.
No real discussion on the motion itself. I think it is quite self-explanatory from the report we were provided with our agenda package. I just think that I mentioned earlier that Region 6 provides a valuable service again, and it's something that I don't think many in our citizenry really would understand, which is understandable. It's a kind of a complicated arrangement, but it does speak to how solid waste management is managed and how we are organized to deal with that. So I think it would be helpful at some point to have a public presentation on that to just better educate ourselves on council, but everyone else as well.
Agreed. Yeah, it's very, very confusing thing if you don't understand it. So there is a motion in front of us with a seconder. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion carried unanimous. There are no public hearings. There's no business arising or unfinished business, so we're on to new business. So 11.1, pre-approval of 25-26 electric utility capital projects, upgrade and double circuit installation. There is a recommendation in front of us. The recommendation is that council pre-approve the following electric utility capital projects for 25-26 in the amount of $2,373,000, which includes the 81-watt-233 upgrade to Dufferin Street for $1,721,000, and the new double circuit on Green Street for $652,000. So you got all that? So who would like to make that recommendation, or who would like to give an update on it? Sure. Anybody need an update, or Kathleen?
So we actually have our consultant, Darren from SEMA, here online to speak to us about this proposed project tonight.
Excellent. So do we have Darren?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Through the chair, yeah, this project was developed from various studies that were done by previous consultants. It allows the increased reliability within the town. It allows the town to further add to its infrastructure and for new development. I know the town's open for business, and there are several new projects on the books within the town that require upgrade these feeder to be upgraded. Over several years, some of the equipment is aged dramatically, and the town reached out to Nova Scotia Power, as they're the contractor, to do an estimate and scope the project. And from our analysis, we worked with the town to review the various scenarios. There were several scenarios on the table, and this project came forth to be the most favorable project. And it adds asset value to the town's electrical infrastructure base over time, over the value over time. And what this allows us to do for any future upgrades, when the town increases its voltage from 5 and 4 kV to 12, this system and this new line is set up to be able to switch over easily to that new voltage. We do have currently, clients that are wanting to connect to the grid, and with the existing feeders being overloaded, that becomes an issue. And this will relieve some of the headaches on the grid and allow any new client to be connected up to the grid along Kissing Bridge Road and Dufferin Street and Green Street. I'm willing to answer any questions. I in the document, I attached my report to the document that Kathleen or that Lisa had forwarded on to yourselves. And from this meeting, this project still has to go to the review board approval once it's approved by council. And if you last fall, I was here last fall, and the council at that time approved 1.8 million. And what we're looking for now is an additional 652K for the project along the Green Street to be added to the project. I'll be open for some questions, and I don't know if we want to go in any further detail at this point.
Thank you. Any questions from my colleagues around the table? Anybody have any questions? I guess I have one, Darren, if I may, and that's
Sure.
just now that we have the report, and if we approve this tonight, can we then can we go out to RFP, out to tender for who's going to do the work, or does NSPI automatically do the work? Because I'm just wondering for competitive pricing, if we could go out to other people that do this type of work, because there are other people that do this type of work, for example.
Yeah, currently there is a contract with the town with Nova Scotia Power, and it's not necessarily Nova Scotia Power. Nova Scotia Power would in turn use approved contractors to work on that line, Your Worship. We are open to listening to that, but Nova Scotia Power currently procures all that equipment, and going out to contract with another contractor could cause delays is they may not be able to procure the equipment necessary that Nova Scotia Power already has or already will procure.
Okay, thank you. That's sort of what I was wondering, because the other thing is not only price, but as we all know, NSPI, it seems to have some, backlog. So I was just hoping for efficiency or time as well.
Exactly. And that's where once council approves this, we'll send this off to the URB, and the plan is to get a schedule. This project is deemed to be completed prior to winter of 2025, so end of November. That's our goal. Nova Scotia Power has currently committed to us that yes, it will be done by that time. But they need a purchase order, and we need approval from the EURB.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Darren? Okay, well, Darren, thank you very much. And you can basically enjoy your evening if we're done with that part of the report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. So someone prepared to move that? Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Fullerton. Any further discussion or question on the motion? You can read it if you'd like, yeah, but I hope they have no more questions after we let them go. But anyways, go ahead.
They move that council pre-approve the following electric utility capital projects for 2025-26 in the amount of $2,373,000, which includes the 81 -233 upgrade to Dufferin Street for $1,721,000 and the new double circuit on Green Street for $652,000.
So it's been moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Fullerton. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion carried unanimous. Now we're on to item 11.3, pre-approval of the 2025-26 town capital budget item, Bandstand Restoration Project. There's a recommendation that council pre-approve the Bandstand Restoration Project for the town's 25-26 capital budget for the amount of $345,000, including net HST, with funding from capital reserves. Tyson, do you have?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the pre-approval for the Bandstand Restoration Project follows on from the condition assessment report that I presented to council a couple of meetings ago. So basically, following the condition assessment, part of the consultant's scope was to prepare design documents and tender documents for the restoration. So within that restoration package, just to recap a little bit on the condition assessment, it was identified the steel deck subframing as being in poor condition, requiring replacement, and further recommended items included abrasive blasting and recoating of the steel columns, replacement and repairs of the wood decking, guardrails and benches, and then further non-structural items included the accessibility ramp, abrasive blasting repairs, and recoating of the ornamental steel, and the reinstallation of a roof ornament. So as I said, the design work and package for that is underway, and we're expecting that to be completed in the next few weeks, along with a Class A estimate. So staff's intention with bringing the project forward at this time for pre-approval is to mitigate delays that could result. I know everyone's very keen to see the bandstand restored, allow the summer activities to go ahead, and this was a proactive way of mitigating that delay. We still could be exposed to other factors, lead times on construction materials. We're dealing with structural steel for the deck replacement, contractors' schedules and availability, also, and a bunch of other things that are in the market at the moment that we're all aware of as well. So Little bit of uncertainty at the moment. So this pre-approval request is based on the upper limit of the budget that RJC identified. So we've used that $300,000 with the exclusions as the basis for this budget amount. Just thought it was worth identifying that there is the option available to council to pass a resolution to grant staff the authority to award the tender if it wishes to, in order to further mitigate delays. So just thought I'd identify that as well. In terms of the financials, there's a breakdown on the second page of the report there. Again, we've used that $300,000, applied the net HST to get that 313,000. And then we've included some contingency as well for the costs that weren't included in that cost estimate. And that gets us to the budget of $345,000. The finance team has summarized the capital reserves balance being in excess of $1.2 million, and identified that there was a transfer of $355,000 at the end of the previous year's budget, and it's kind of an offsetting cost if council wants to look at it that way. That concludes the report. If there are any questions, happy to answer.
Thank you, Tyson. Any questions for Tyson? Councillor Daphne.
Through the chair, Tyson, the steel deck subframing needs to be replaced. And then I see a recoating of the steel columns. Both types, both parts the same steel, or what happened that one gave up so quickly, or what am I not seeing?
Through the chair, so the replacement of the steel under the deck is just based on the condition. So that, from what I understand, the steel wasn't coated, so it's been exposed to the conditions and salt, air, atmosphere, and none of those things are very good for structural steel. And I think maybe the ventilation isn't ideal for structural steel under the deck as well. So the columns, they're just in better condition. So we're into being able to repair the columns that are there rather than replace.
Anybody else? Councillor Strong?
Through the chair, this is something that's from the last session of council. And I'm just wondering if there was ever any discussion by the former council of the cost of removing the bandstand. Not that I'm in favor of that, but I'm just curious as why it's coming to us, why it wasn't done earlier, I guess, or was that even an option before, or was just go through?
During my term with the last council, we've never talked about removing the bandstand. It's always been a priority to have the bandstand either replaced, fixed, whatever, right? It was just a fact of funds and the fact that we didn't know what it was going to cost. We were always waiting for the report that we finally have gotten. It was the last council that actually directed staff to find out the information on the rebuild of the bandstand. So it was always, in my opinion, a priority of the group to fix it. They just didn't know the cost, and we weren't sure of the funding, to be quite honest with you. So, but it was never once that I can remember discussed at a meeting of not repairing the bandstand.
That was my question, and thank you for that answer.
Anybody else? Councillor Babineau.
Thanks. Through the chair, I actually have two questions now to piggyback off of Debbie's question. You mentioned ventilation may have been an issue with the structural steel beams. Is there anything that can be done during like the refurbishment process to sort of mitigate that going forward?
So through the chair, I haven't actually, we're still waiting on a full assessment of the design. So I'm unsure whether that's been incorporated, but I think it's a good suggestion to make sure that that risk is mitigated. So excellent suggestion.
Thank you. And question number two, if we were to delay the project, what is the likelihood that it would end up costing more money, either because of supply chain issues in the future or because the structural assessment, like it'll have gotten worse, basically?
So through the chair, it kind of depends how long we're talking about delaying, but in construction, in the recent history and long-term history, it's not very often that prices go down for work. And the longer it's left, I mean, we're into replacing the decking, so that scope's probably not going to change, but the structure's not going to improve in condition. So that there would be risk there. It's probably not significant, but in general in construction, I'd say just the way that industry is moving, there's risk that price could increase the longer we wait.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Greek.
Through the chair, the report states that staff's working at sourcing grants for this project. Are you able to elaborate on the amount that we're looking to seek in terms of grants to potentially reduce the amount that would be withdrawn from reserves?
So through the chair, with grants, we're looking at all kinds of opportunities. So staff are trying to prioritize certain projects when we applied, we presented to council the grid application before Christmas for the plant, where that was a large increase, and we applied for the $3 million plus that we were looking for, because that was obviously a substantial increase that we needed to do our best, put our best foot forward to try and offset that cost. So we're looking for the best opportunities the grants provide. I don't have a specific one to provide with this Bandstand report because we need the pre-approval, we need the commitment that we're moving ahead with it in order to give substance to any grant application, I would think.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Fullerton.
Through the chair. The bandstand, I think I agree with you. The bandstand is a pretty important feature in the town. It's a focal point in Civic Square. Now, with that, the question that I have is more financial in nature. And if I remember correctly, when the capital budget for 24-25 was presented and approved last year, the bandstand was part of the overall Civic Square improvement project, much of which was projected for 28-29 or 29-30. Now, we can't wait that long, obviously. We wouldn't want to wait that long. I guess what I'm asking is if we're going to use some of the reserve now for this, we'll adjust the 5-year plan. That'll be adjusted to compensate for this being done early.
That is correct. I mean, the project, if it was, I don't recall what the cost was, but the bandstand was a component of that. So when we look at the rest of the project with the exclusion of the bandstand, if we complete it this year, yes, that would be taken out of the end price.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor.
To the chair. This may be a question for our interim CAO. I'm not sure. It's again further to Councillor Greek's question with regard to grant funding. This wonderful feature in our town was originally a community project. It wasn't a town initiated structure. It was envisioned and seen through to fruition as a project of our Heritage Society, and it remained in their possession and under their care until a few years back. The reason I bring this up for context, but because we've accomplished great things with community efforts that supplemented what could be done with our tax base, which is limited. So there may be opportunities for grants, and there may be opportunities for contributions from elsewhere within the community or from, even our neighboring community, because it's not just used by the people that live in this town, it's used by visitors and it's used by other community groups. And so it's a value beyond just the residents and businesses who occupy our 4 square kilometers. So I just put that out there because I don't want to see anything delay this project going ahead, but I also don't want to have us limit the opportunities that potentially exist for contributions to ensure this beautiful feature of the community is restored.
Thank you. Byron?
Through the chair, we would look at all possibilities as far as grants. Department of Municipal Affairs have a number of community-related grants. We would certainly look at that. There may even be heritage grants. So we would do a full search of what opportunities there might be.
Thank you. And we do give receipts for any donations also, do we not? Any anonymous donations, receipts will be given downstairs. So, so is someone prepared to make the motion? Councillor Strong?
Read it out because it gives me great pleasure. I am going to recommend that council authorize the town to, that council pre-approve the bandstand restoration project for the town's 2025, 25, and 26 capital budget for the amount of $345,000, including net HST, with funding from capital reserves.
It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. We'll move on to 11.4, Lunenburg Board of Trade lease renewal. There's a recommendation in front of us. The council authorized the town to enter into a 5-year lease agreement with the Lunenburg Board of Trade as presented for the Tourist Bureau and Campground on Blockhouse Hill. Anybody prepared to? Kayla, do you want to speak on it first? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. So tonight we do have a lease renewal. As you all know, the Lunenburg Board of Trade has been leasing the lands on Blockhouse Hill for the Tourist Bureau and the campground for many years. The latest iteration of this lease is a 1-year lease, which is set to expire at the end of this month. So as that is coming around the corner, the Board of Trade has sent us a request to extend that lease, and that request is included in the agenda package. There's also a few other requests within that letter. But for here tonight, we're recommending that the town enter into a 5-year lease with the campground. And if there are other wishes of council to act on anything else within the Board of Trade's letter, that's definitely something we could look at down the road, but maybe some of them don't fit within a lease agreement per se. So just be cognizant of that. Also pointing out that the lease presented in the agenda package tonight mimics the 1-year lease that they had signed last year, with the exception of making it a 5-year lease and also putting in a clause that the rental payment each year would go up with CPI with a cap of 5%. So if CPI was greater, like we saw a few years ago, we would cap it at 5%. Also just something to acknowledge that last year in April of 2024, the previous council had declared adjacent land surplus for the proposed development of Blockhouse Hill. And as you'll see in this agenda package in the report, there does appear to be a very slight overlap of what is the leased lands for LBOT and then what is the declared surplus land for any proposed development. At this time, because we don't see any immediate development happening, we don't think that would be a problem to move forward, and there are mechanisms in place if we wanted to reconsider how much that land is or to work with LBOT for a smaller portion. But just something to be cognizant about, as the campground and the proposed development of Blockhouse Hill were discussions that were had in the past. With that, the recommendation is there to enter into a 5-year lease agreement, but if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you, Kayla. And there are some other things within the lease presentation they sent us, but that'll be staff, our staff and their staff will discuss some of those other issues and come back to us at this point. So tonight's conversation is really about the term of the lease. So there is a recommendation in front of us. If someone's prepared to move that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Fulton. Is there a seconder? For how many, for the recommendation in front? Okay, moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Babineau.
Yes, I actually would like to maybe discuss a different length of lease term. Specifically the 10 years that they requested in their initial letter, and that they have given us some follow-up information to indicate that the 5 years may not work for their purposes after all. So I'd be interested in amending the motion for a 10-year lease instead.
So you want to amend the motion to a 10-year lease?
I do, yeah, but I would welcome any discussion.
Okay, well, it's moved to amend it. Is there a seconder on the amendment? So seconded by Councillor Daphne. So now we're discussing the amended motion. So any discussion on the amended motion? Councillor Greig.
I think when we're getting into 10 years, certainly I support the campground and the board of trade as a whole, but I think in 10 years, my only concern is what the town will look like in 10 years and whether this, I guess, creates any or reduces any flexibility that we have in terms of our future development possibilities. I'd be interested in understanding a little bit in terms of the termination clause with 6 months notice, if there are any requirements to trigger that clause or if it is just a broad standard 6-month clause.
I know when I was there, it was a broad standard clause because we were given notice at one point. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, all those in favor of the amended motion to a 10-year lease, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carried 6-1 with Councillor Fulton voting in the negative. Okay. So we're on to 12.1, Canada Historic Sites and Monuments Board application review, presented by Councillor Strong. Councillor Strong?
Following on the last meeting, I'll just clarify that this is an initiative that is done through Parks Canada that flows from the recommendations out of Justice Sinclair's Truth and Reconciliation Report. And so the motion is that council direct staff to explore an application to the Parks Canada Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada for review of the National Historic Site designation, and that a report on a possible application be presented at a future meeting.
Thank you. So that's just a notice of motion. So, motion's okay. There's a seconder. Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on it? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimous. Basically, there's no items listed for committee of the whole at this time. If anybody has something they'd want to present to staff to be put on the next committee of the whole meeting, you can do it now, or you can just do it by email leading up to the meeting. If there isn't anything urgent you want them to add right now that's on the tip of your tongue, then we'll so move. We need a motion to move into closed session. Oh, you have something. Okay.
Thank you. You may have noticed when you came in tonight, there were some pamphlets on some of the chairs. I actually have more, but which I can hand out. But it's from the, I went to my first Lunenburg County Senior Safety Program meeting and learned a lot and was happy to bring back what I learned and hand out some things to you. I just want to talk to you a little bit about the senior safety program and what it's about. It won't take me that long. It's to reduce the fear of crime so seniors feel safer in their own homes and communities, to educate seniors about personal safety, including elder abuse, which I found out that day at the meeting is very real, and there's a lot of it. Falls prevention, safe banking, fraud, internet safety, and home security. To promote independence by giving seniors the information and resources they need to remain in their own homes. To provide opportunities for seniors to discuss issues important to them. To advocate for seniors' needs in a larger community, particularly amongst businesses and service agencies. To improve the quality of life for seniors, and I think that's the big one. Seniors are people, and I think far too much or far too often that we forget that there's a person inside that older body. They will achieve these goals by talking with seniors in their homes, through the churches, social clubs, community organizations, and senior residences. They will also learn more about safety issues of concern to seniors by conducting a survey, which will provide them a baseline information about seniors' fear of crime, the safety issues that concern them the most, and the way they would like the police service to communicate with them. One of the programs offered is the Senior Friendly program. Senior Friendly is a business recognition program that helps businesses and organizations become more age-friendly. The program addresses myths about seniors, explains the effects of aging, and shows organizations how to provide services in a way that addresses the special needs of the aging population, an increasingly important growing segment of our society. So I'll have extra handouts, and if anybody wants to talk with me personally, I'm open for that, and I can direct you to Lisa Bennett and with any of your questions. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Councillor Daphne. I just want to thank you on behalf of the community for your representation on this committee. It's great to see we have representation. I don't think anybody from Lunenburg was at a committee meeting in years. So a community of our age demographics, I think it's very important that we have some representation on that committee. So thank you so much. Councillor Strong.
Following on the heels of my friend here, Debbie, I am going to report on some committees that I have served on. I think it's good for the community to understand that we're doing things not just in this room. So this is just 1 month update. I'm already a volunteer member of Harborview Haven, and through that organization, I was offered a series of KPMG board governance education sessions that translate very well into my role as a board member there and as a counselor here in this room. That was quite an investment of time, but it was also a terrific experience. South Shore Public Library, we met for the second time in 2025 on February 28th, where we reviewed the draft budget, among other things. The Lunenburg Cultural Collective's first meeting of 2025 was in late February. That was one of those icy days. And I learned I was the first member of council to attend in some time. The collective is involved in a number of cultural initiatives for the town of Lunenburg, including a shared initiative with the town in creating an active calendar showcasing cultural events in the town. The Lunenburg Academy Foundation had its first meeting with me as a town appointee, and I can assure you that events are well past the planning stages for this coming spring, summer, and fall season. They actually exhaust me in those meetings. I attended the Cultural Heritage Working Group meetings, both the regular group meeting and the public consultation meetings held at the Fisheries Museum this past week. And I and the community, I'm sure, are looking forward to the first report on sustainable tourism to be coming later this month or early next month. And on Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending with several other councillors around this table, a public event honoring International Women's Day, but particularly honoring people who have been taken recently through intimate partner violence from around the province. This was a full afternoon of presentations from local women's groups in the county, with a keynote presentation provided by the Honorable Justice Michael McDonald, who was the Chief Commissioner at the Mass Casualty Commission hearings. And I was reminded during that session that one of the action items arising out of the final mass casualty report was a focus on rural policing and community knowledge. And I'm very happy to see that the local detachment of the RCMP has taken steps to meet the action set forth in the report, and I assume they will continue. So I just want to remind people in the gallery and those listening at Zoom that this is a time of year when Lunenburg organizations that are mainly nonprofit are looking for board members. And we have a list of them on our website. Reach out. I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you. They certainly were happy to hear from me in the last few years. And I encourage anyone with 5 or 6 hours a month to spare to become active on a board.
Thank you, Councillor Strong. Anybody else? Councillor Fullerton.
Just to follow through on Councillor Strawn's report, the event at the museum, the cultural tourism workshop. I'm sorry, the name escapes me now.
Cultural Heritage Working Group.
Oh, there we go. Okay. In any event, yes, it was a very, very fresh take on all of the different aspects of cultural tourism in the town and cultural heritage in the town. And it was very well attended, and I enjoyed the exercise. I really did. And I also was present on Saturday, and it was, it was a very thought-provoking event for International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Daphne.
Short and sweet. Proud Canadian, and I think we all should be.
Anybody else? I just want to reiterate that what we've shown the last 3.5 or 4 months is that, this group did campaign and they promised some things, and we are a community council. We've all stepped up and joined community organizations that were unattended for many years, and we're showing our due diligence in that. And I want to thank each and every one of you for the extra time you have given the community outside these 4 walls, because there's a heck of a lot more to this job than what you do in these 4 walls. So again, thank you very much, everybody. So if there's nothing else, we'll move on. We need a motion that council move in closed session to discuss agenda items. Moved by Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Babineau. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your evening.